Well, one country that's dealing with rather more than that threat right now, of course, Ukraine, after their invasion 3 years ago onto their mainland by Russian forces, valiantly fighting back against pretty much everyone's expectations. Under the leadership of Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine has held on to most of its territory. Lost Crimea in 2014. They've lost large sections of the Donbass region in the east, much of the industrial heartland. But they have kept fighting. They've had the support from Britain, countries in the EU, but most crucially, support from the United States, both militarily and financially, and indeed, one would say, morally as well. However, that looks like that's all about to end. Donald Trump, the new US president, as he said he would do when he was running for office, he said he has spoken for 90 minutes with Vladimir Putin. They've begun talks to end the war in Ukraine. But we hear from his defense secretary, Peter Hegseth, that actually, well, it won't involve any membership of NATO to protect the Ukrainian territory, and it won't involve a return to pre-2014 borders. So that means all the territory that Russia has seized, they would keep. That's the start of the negotiations. Is that a betrayal of Ukraine? Well, let's put that question to someone who's living it right now. Kira Rudik is Ukrainian MP, leader of the political party Golos, and joins us once again live from Kyiv in Ukraine. Good afternoon to you, Kira.
Hello, Julian. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'm vividly remembering speaking to you after you were in your own home, that the windows had been bombed and your whole home was devastated and covered in glass. And speaking to you right now, after going through that and everything your country and your countrymen and women have gone through, is this a betrayal of Ukraine?
It is indeed very painful what's going on right now. And, today I have received many requests from Ukrainian people. And the main question that I am unable to answer is that they're asking me is like, what did we do wrong, right? We are doing the right thing. We are fighting for our land, for our people, for really for the values of democracy and freedom. And where did it all go wrong?
Yeah.
But the good thing is we did not hear the details just yet from what is exactly in the deal. And the most important thing that we didn't hear is who or how will be determined that this deal will stick and will work and Putin will keep his part of the bargain. Because we already has been through that. Since 2014, we had the so-called ceasefire. Yeah. That Russia actually never honored, and we didn't have anyone to pressure them into actually working with that. So these are the questions that we do not have the answers yet.
Yes, because Vladimir Putin, famously so trustworthy. That's the issue, isn't it? It seems to me very, very clear. He got the message in 2014 that, yeah, you can just take any part of Ukraine you want. So what a surprise. Back in 2022, he came in to seize the rest of Ukraine. The message has gone out loud and clear that the West will help, but only so far. If there is a deal, let's say Russia gets to keep the territory that they've already managed to take control of, there would have to be some sort of international guarantee of at least preventing Russia from encroaching any further. But would you trust that guarantee, given that the Minsk Treaty, basically, America and the UK, and Russia vowed to protect Ukraine's sovereign national borders, and they clearly have not been protected. Would you trust anything that the West says now?
Well, of course, there would be some ways of ensuring the security, but you are absolutely right. In the current situation, can you actually trust the promises that you are being given? Because the main question about these promises would be whoever makes the security guarantees for Ukraine needs to make sure that they are able to go ahead with whatever happens if Russia breaks their part of the deal. Yeah. And right now, because the war is so different, it's the war of missiles and drones, where it will be incredibly hard to say, who launched those drones, etc. We know for sure that Russia will break any kind of the peace deal. And then what's going to happen? And then who is going to do what? And I don't think that Donald Trump still has anything in mind to solve this. And I don't know if our European allies ready to accept this responsibility. Because I think, Julia, we have been talking with you so many times, and I'm so grateful for your support and for all people in Britain's support. The question still is there, is Europe ready to accept this responsibility? Yeah. like providing Ukraine, and then what would happen if we actually lose this war? I think we're not talking enough about that.
No,
and
I don't think a lot of European leaders want to face up to it. I don't know, you know, they haven't got the defence capability, a lot of them. It's very noticeable in terms of percentage of GDP being spent on military. You know, it's the countries that actually got a border with Russia that have been doing that for quite some time, very wisely. There's a reason why, you know, Poland spends that money, why the Baltic states spend that money. It's a reason why Finland doesn't go to war with other countries, but Finland, for some reason, has a reserve army of 250,000 trained people. I wonder why they do that. All the countries that have been invaded by Russia in the past still have a border with Russia. They get it because they've lived it. Now you're living it. In terms of the details, in terms of territory, I mean, an awful lot of the land that Russia has seized is your industrial heartland. Vital for the economy of Ukraine. But they've also taken not just land, they've also taken Ukrainian children, have they not? Along with the people they have massacred, the women they have raped, the people they have tortured and abducted as well. But the children have actually been abducted to Russia, have they not?
Absolutely, Julia, and this is one of the most painful subjects of this war, if you can define what's the most painful, right? But it's also something that the international community was able to confirm precisely, and this is why the ICC, whose efficiency we may be questioning, but actually they have issued the order on Putin's the warrant for Putin's arrest. Specifically because of that. So then the question is, like, are we getting our children back? Or are they becoming Russians and then will be trained like to fight against Ukraine? Or what's going to happen then? And so right now there are so many things that are unclear, but of course the tendency is not good for Ukraine. And I wonder when we will hear the statement from our European allies, like, what's on the table for them and like what is their position, because we are grateful for the position that nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. We have heard it today, but I think when talking to Donald Trump, we need something more bold, I would say.
Yeah,
something more something that would show the leadership, something that would show that you will not back down. Well, in my heart, I know that you will not, but we need in the United States to hear that as well.
Well, that's it. Some people pointing out, we had lots of calls on this, you know, that actually, you know, and John Healey, the Defence Secretary, has, I think, quite rightly said there can't be any talks about the ending this war without Ukraine in the room, without Zelensky in the room, with Putin and Donald Trump. But also just crucially, you know, Ukraine has to agree to this, because the war doesn't end if Ukraine doesn't agree that the war ends, because your people have valiantly fought for your nation state, for your people, for your homeland, and you'd have done it whether you got the help that you got or you did not. Realistically, will most Ukrainians go? I've seen some polling suggest lots of Ukrainians, they're war weary. You know, people are dying. They want to go back to normal life. But would most Ukrainians say, you know, we're willing to give up territory to get a normal life back, to get peace back, and to get our men back from the front line?
I think, Julia, it will solely depend on how well we will believe that the promise of this peace is real. Right. That is not some like time off for Russia to regain their funds after the sanctions will be lifted, and to train more soldiers and then to attack us again. And again, right now in the all the statements by the world leaders, we hear everything but the answer to this particular question. Yeah.
That's going to be the key. And have you been surprised? Because it's one of the things that I'm utterly perplexed by, because I thought Donald Trump, if he's elected, he'd be really strong on Israel. There's been none of this sort of, on one side, on the other side. No, it's backing Israel 100%. Why do you think there are so many people who support Donald Trump and Donald Trump himself and his team, that they are so strong on Israel's sort of, you know, sovereign nation state integrity, but not on Ukraine's? They seem, when on lots of ways you could argue that Ukraine is a much more clear-cut case, a democratic national state being invaded by a foreign military power. It's absolutely cut and dried, really obvious whose side we should be on. Morally, economically, geographically, security-wise. I mean, why do you think Donald Trump and so many other people are supportive of Israel but not willing to give the same level of support to Ukraine?
So Donald Trump and his team made it very clear, even before the elections, that the main the policy item for them would be to make sure that China, a key adversary of the United States, will not have the productive unity with Russia and will not be in the military alliance, and that they will be working closely on making sure that that wouldn't happen. And it seems that Ukraine right now falls as a part of this geopolitical idea of trying to to break those ties that China has with Russia, to weaken both. And for that, they are ready to sacrifice some of the positions that include supporting Ukraine. Again, let's hear what does J.D. Vance have to say on the Munich conference, but I can tell you one thing. The Munich agreement in 1938 did not work, and we hope that this mistake would not be repeated in Munich in 25.
Absolutely. Kira Rudik, honestly, my heart goes out to you. We've spoken so many times over the last few years. I am so ashamed of this betrayal by the West of our allies in Ukraine. I really am ashamed, I think we will rue the day. We will rue the day. Kira Rudik, Ukrainian MP, leader of the political party Golos, live for us in Kyiv in Ukraine.